Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF. Eric Lopez is on assignment. Joining us this week is former UCF student body president Brian W. Peterson. Brian, welcome in to Around
Hello,
the Kingdom.
Trace. What an introduction there. Nobody refers to me as a former student body president anymore. That was a long time ago.
Well, thank you for pinch hitting and jumping on Around the Kingdom with us.
Yeah. So anyway, coming up on the fastest UCF show around, we've got Chapel Bill coming to town, right? The Tar Heels of North Carolina are coming to see the Knights on Saturday. I know you'll be there. I'll be there, ready to go. Hopefully we don't have any weather delays. News about us wanting to be called Central all of a sudden. What's that about? I'm sure we'll talk about that. And what's going on with the AP poll? We got winless teams in the top 25. This can't be right, Trace, right? I mean, that doesn't sound right to me, but I'm sure we'll talk about that and more on the fastest show around the kingdom.
Well, before we get going with all of that, Brian, let us welcome in the third member of our team. He is Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF. Keeps an eye on the clock, keeps us on our toes. Hello, Adam.
Gentlemen, good evening. This audition's going well, first off, I got to say. But secondly, this is the third time I've seen Brian in a week, but the first time I've seen him with sleeves. So have a great show, everybody.
Thank you, Adam. All right, Brian. UCF coming off a bye week, 2-0. They got by Jacksonville State late. They demolished North Carolina A&T. They welcome in North Carolina. My question for you to kick things off, is this a must win? Does UCF need to beat North Carolina to set the tone for what will be a difficult Big 12 schedule ahead?
I don't see how you can say anything other than yes. Absolutely, UCF needs to win this game for a couple of reasons. One, it's a Fox nationally televised game. You know, we don't get very many of those. I think we're going to be on FS1 the week after that. We've been on ESPN Plus the last couple of weeks in a row. So big stage, big opportunity for UCF and specifically for Scott Frost to show that, you know, UCF is rebounding from the last couple seasons and that we're building something here in Orlando. Plus, if you want to look beyond the North Carolina game, we're getting into conference play here. So it's only going to get harder. North Carolina, not a great team from what we've seen thus far in the season. Bill Belichick hasn't, gotten this team moving a little bit in the last couple of weeks. They've had some opponents, some FCS opponents and lesser opponents. But I think we absolutely need to win this game if we're going to be considering, making a run in the Big 12, if we think that's possible.
Of course, UCF has had two weather-delayed games to start things off. I don't think much of the country is paying attention to the Knights. Scott Frost has a winning streak that goes back to 2017 as head coach of the Knights. This is a high-profile game, and let's remember what happened the last time a high-profile opponent, Colorado, Deion Sanders came to town. Everybody was buzzing about that. Seems a little more subdued this week, but it could set the tone. This is going to be comparable to Big 12 games, and the Knights go on the road to face Kansas State, and fans want to look ahead to 3-0, 4-0. Knights need to take care of business in a muggy, hot bounce house on Saturday to set the tone. A stumble at home, and it could make for a difficult schedule down the way, Brian.
The ELO was talking last week that there was a chance that Fox Big Noon kickoff could have been potentially eyeing this North Carolina UCF game. Obviously, that didn't happen. They're not coming to us. But to your point, Colorado, that game ended up being a blowout for UCF. But let's go back to the North Carolina game. Let's talk about what's at stake here for UCF. With a UCF win, obviously a good thing. And what could potentially be at stake with a UCF loss, Trace?
Confidence in the fan base, confidence with this team. I think that's what's at stake here, Brian. I don't think we know much of what we have seen over the first 2 weeks, 2 games that tell us about this UCF team. So I think instilling confidence in Night Nation, right? There was fun in the bounce house in that blowout win over North Carolina A&T. UCF fastback, a lot of big runs, the kickoff return for touchdown, a lot of scoring. And this is high profile. I don't know that Bill Belichick is loved by anybody, even North Carolina fans. So there's some hate here, and UCF fans want to send a message that Night Nation is back, that UCF is back under Scott Frost. So I think the expectations game is at stake, and the confidence in the fan base is at stake.
I agree with all those points. And I think that from a national perspective, you've got to win these games, right? This is, like I said, it's a Fox game. You got to take the opportunity. You got to win the games like this when you have the opportunity to do so on that national stage.
You mentioned him as Chapel Bill. Brian, what concerns you most about UCF playing against North Carolina head coach Bill Belichick's team?
Well, considering what we've seen so far from them, not a whole lot. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Obviously, we know that Bill Belichick is a very, very good coach. Yet the thing with Bill is that he likes to take away whatever you're good at. So he's really good at scheming up whatever is going to take away your best asset on the field. Now, I'm not really sure what that is at this point. We're still going through quarterback growing pains. So I don't know if he tries to focus on the quarterback and take away, assuming Taven gets the start, take away Taven's ability to throw the ball, or make him throw downfield more than he's comfortable doing, or if he's going to try and go after the running game. Not really sure, but I can assure you that he will have something dialed up that's going to give UCF heartache during the game.
I think you said it best, right? They're going to try and take away whatever UCF does best. So the chess match between Scott Frost and Bill Belichick, to me, is an interesting subplot here. Who outmaneuvers the other?
Yeah. And Trey, speaking of Bill Belichick, is he the most famous coach coming to the bounce house that we've seen so far?
It's an interesting question, right? Deion Sanders came to the bounce house. I'd say his fame is pretty high. And I had to think back, right? Because Elo had initially posed to me who are the top 5 most famous coaches, Elo and his list. And I thought Joe Paterno was pretty big back in the day when UCF faced Penn State. So is it bounce house or altogether facing another coach? So I'd say Deion Sanders more than Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick's notoriety and fame has decreased. I think he's known more for his girlfriend more now than he was for his Super Bowl wins in New England.
He's seen more on TMZ than he is in the college football world. So I also had Deion Sanders written down for one of the names. Paterno's a good one, obviously at Penn State. Mike Gundy, he's a personality in college football. We've seen him in the bounce house. So if you're looking at names inside the bounce house besides Deion and Bill coming in, maybe throw him in there. But I think Bill's certainly one of the top ones that we're going to have seen so far.
So I know on paper this says North Carolina against UCF, but we might also say it's North versus Central, directional battle. Little shade, or just a casual approach by Bill Belichick, name dropping Central? And is this something UCF fans should in the least bit be outraged about?
I watched that little presser where he referred to us as Central. I didn't take any sense that he was trying to throw shade at us, but I mean, I guess Bill Belichick's mind works in mysterious ways. Maybe that was an underhanded insult to us, but I'm going to say no. I'm not outraged by it. I kind of rolled my eyes and said, this is another person that's talking about, UCF as Central Florida or C Florida. But let me tell you, Trace, this has kicked up quite the firestorm amongst the younger crowd on social media. They have really embraced this central identity that UCF could roll out with. And even UCF Twitter has changed their name to Central Football on UCF Twitter.
Do any of the names bother you? Central Florida, Golden Knights, UFC. Do you ever get annoyed by any of them?
I get annoyed by UFC just because that's not us. I'm willing to let Central Florida or Golden Knights fly. They still bother me because athletics has made a specific effort to get announcers on ESPN and networks to refer to us as UCF, not as Central Florida or C Florida. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too old for this, Trace. I think the Central thing is a little silly. Maybe I'm the grumpy one. I'm probably going to get dragged on social media for that. But going back to the game, North Carolina early prediction showed the early lines were showing UCF opening as a 3-point favorite. I was checking earlier today. I've seen it up as high as 6.5 or 7 points.
Bet the mortgage.
Favor.
You bet the mortgage?
Bet the mortgage, right? How confident are you feeling and who you taking, Trace?
What was the ESPN index had it like 85%? I don't know. I know that sounds like fence sitting. I don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised by nearly any outcome. Quite disappointed if it's something like 47-6 or something like that. I don't expect either team to blow out the other. Could it be a close game? Yes. I hope the heat, the humidity, UCF home field advantage, the bounce house really rocking is a difference maker. I don't know what we've learned about North Carolina. They have upwards of 70 new players. So a lot of roster turnover there. They didn't look good at all against TCU. Marginal win over Charlotte. Of course, they beat Richmond. Opportunity here for UCF. So I still think North Carolina wins, though.
Is this game a sellout? I thought I saw that they had announced it was a sellout, but then I saw that Athletics was still
I
saying
think by the
tickets were
time we
still
get to
available.
Saturday, it'll be sold out. So what's your prediction?
I think UCF takes the game. I think it's going to be a closer one. I think Adam and I discussed it on Sons today. Yesterday, I think my prediction was UCF 27, North Carolina 21.
Gotcha. Well, of course, the Cows played the Gators in one. They played Miami, FAU, FIU in the Shula Bowl. FSU's got the games with Miami, Florida at Miami, right? All these games. Hey, UCF's left out of all this. Do you feel left out? Are you a little jealous that all these state schools have rivalry games against one another?
Not really. I mean, I think from a fan's perspective, we would like to see Florida State, or Miami on the schedule a little more frequently than we see them now. The other schools, FAU, FIU, I can do without. South Florida, I can do without those programs. But it would be nice to get Florida State, or Miami on the schedule. But my concern right now is building this program, getting our feet back under us with Scott Frost. I didn't feel any envy watching Miami take it to the Cows earlier this week, or last Saturday. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed watching the Cows get brought back down to earth.
I think it's just going to take time across all sports, especially football, to develop those rivalries with the Big 12 schools, and it's just going to be played out during competition that you end up hating certain schools and certain fan bases. So, Not jealous at all of the other schools in the state.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer. And speaking of the Big 12, we've got conference play coming up here very shortly. And the SEC has recently announced that they're moving to a 9-game conference schedule, just like the Big 12, just like we see right now. Florida has announced that they are removing Arizona State, trying to, balance their schedule with the changes to this 9-game SEC schedule. Do we think that the UCF and Florida games actually happen in 2030 and 2033, I think?
It sounds so far away, Brian. Go back 5 years, 2020. How much has college football, college athletics changed in 5 years? What will it look like? The ADs, the current ADs at both Florida and UCF, say they are committed to working with each other to make sure these games go on the schedule. I laugh. Terry Modger, on more than one occasion, has bristled at the notion that he inked a 2-for-1. He likes to say that he had one game in Gainesville and then the 1-for-1. I don't know. The math to me is 2-for-1. Yeah. I believe these ADs will make it work. Question is, will these ADs be in place when these games come up on the schedule?
I think we see at least one more of those games happen, probably the 2030 game in Orlando. If they're going to drop it, they'll drop it before that one, I would guess. But 50-50, I guess, is where I would lead. I don't know. So far away.
A lot of former UCF coaches making names for themselves. Brent Key getting a big win over Clemson. Here's the question for you, Brian. Which former UCF coach most likely to make the postseason, the playoffs? Brent Key, Alex Golesh over in Tampa, Josh Heupel in Tennessee, or our buddy Gus up in Tallahassee?
As much as I hate to say it, with Tennessee losing to Georgia last week on Saturday in a tough loss in overtime, more kicking problems for Coach Josh Heupel. We remember what that was like here at UCF. I'm going to have to say at this point, the money would have to be on Gus. Florida State is undefeated. They're rolling. Tommy Castellanos is the darling quarterback of Tallahassee. So I think from a perspective of looking at wins to losses, they have the best chance at this point. I don't see Alex Golesh making the playoff now that they've lost to Miami. And as much as I like Brent Key and what he's done at Georgia Tech, they're just not a power in the ACC.
It pains me to say this, but I think it's Alex Golesh. I think that South Florida wins the AAC and then is the highest ranked group of 5. They've already dispatched to Boise State. So I think he's got the best chance, though. When you look at Florida State's schedule, a lot of cupcakes on that schedule that they should be able to get by. All right, time to bring back in Adam and our silly game.
Well, I'm glad you brought this other game, Trace, and I'm glad you let us know that it's brought to you by our good friends at Temp Check. Night fans, UCF football is about life. It's also about momentum. That's why they built Temp Check. It's something that allows you to stay close to your people, keep connected to your circle. The apps keep you connected. They keep you motivated. They keep you real. Whether you're celebrating a win, filling in around the kingdom, or pushing through a tough week, Temp Check has you right. Make sure your people are there with you. Download Temp Check today, available on all the requisite app stores. It's not just an app. It's a movement. Brian, I'm going to start this silly game off with you this week.
Oh, great.
Easy question. Scott Frost, in his 2 years and 3 games at UCF here, has played several non-conference, non-FCS opponents. So he's got wins against Maryland, 2 against FIU, and 1 against Jack State. If he wins against North Carolina, will this be Scott Frost's biggest non-conference win while the head coach of UCF?
I'm going to say yes, just because it'll be the most recent one, and it's the one in front of us. I mean, the Maryland win was good, but I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say with the national audience on Fox against Bill Belichick, give me that game.
I'm going to go against you on this one, Brian. I think Maryland, they destroyed Maryland up in Maryland, and it really set the tone for the season. And I think it was a difference maker for the Knights that season. So unless North Carolina goes on to a better season than it looks like now, I think that Maryland win was more consequential.
All right, Trace, next for you. If you could take any one player, you only get one player from last year's Knights team and put him on this year's Knights team, who would you take? And who would be on this 2025 team?
That's tough. An offensive lineman. Who do we got out there? We've got several in Tallahassee, right? Adrian Medley. Give me an O lineman.
Marcellus Marshall. You've got Caden Kittler's out there someplace, I believe. Amari Kite, although he's in the NFL, I guess in theory he could come back in this scenario. So you want one of the big boys.
Yeah, because I think that's the area of most concern on UCF's current team.
This was a T-ball answer, right? I mean, Adam just set this up for you. I mean, RJ Harvey, right? Give me RJ Harvey back.
I thought you were going to say KJ Jefferson because he gave you certainty at quarterback for a couple of games.
I suspected one of you would go with RJ Harvey, but
you're
Trace,
the guest, Brian.
That was so nice of you, Trace. You're right. Oh, what was I thinking?
All right, last one for you, Brian. I'll give you 3 choices. What will fans complain about most after this game? The weather, stadium operations, or concessions? What will fans complain most? Weather, operations, or concessions?
I'm hoping that it's operations and not the weather, though I feel like operations and stadium concessions kind of go hand in hand inside the stadium. Give me operations. I don't know. I feel like there's always something you can complain about.
If fans are complaining about one of these 3 things, there was a victory, because if there's a loss, they're going to be complaining about the loss.
True.
The perpetual problem, getting out of the parking lot. So throw that under operations.
See, I'm smart. I walk. I get out of there.
Yeah. Adam, don't leave. Recap for us where we are going into this week on the fantasy football. You had a good week against North Carolina A&T.
I certainly did. Obviously, no game this past weekend, so the standings remain unchanged. Trace, you're in 3rd place with 30 points. Eric Lopez, played by Brian Peterson right now, 33.5 points. And yours truly, 39.5 points as we head into this week for Game 3 contest.
Now, remind us, on Around the Kingdom Overtime, we established a waiver wire will be effect after this game or after Kansas State?
I believe every 4 games we're going to the waiver wire. So you've got to get through this one and one more before you can potentially swap out Marcus Burke, maybe.
If this was after week 3, would we allow Brian to make changes to Elo's team?
1,000%. Absolutely. The best ability is availability, Trace.
That's right. All right. Catch up with you in a little bit, Adam.
So speaking of the fantasy football that you guys are doing, let's talk about the schedule draft. So I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trace, Adam had North Carolina A&T, so he gets the win for North Carolina A&T, and you have drafted North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yeah, I drafted UCF with a win over North Carolina yet moments ago, predicted that North Carolina would win. So I'm going to win either way, right? I'm going to win either way in this one. All right, let's talk Big 12 football. Kansas State lost to Arizona on Friday night, but it wasn't a Big 12 game as it was a previously scheduled game. What strikes you besides the phrase, right, that's so easy to say? It's pretty wide open, right? But there are starting to be some teams that you could see be contenders for the conference championship game.
Yeah, the one that I was most surprised by was Houston. I finally got a chance to sit down and watch Houston play Colorado, and I don't know if it was that Colorado was just bad because they've lost their quarterback and they lost Hunter into the NFL, or if it's that Houston finally has something going. They've got their quarterback from was a transfer from Texas A&M University, so he looked pretty good. So in the Big 12 football realm world of news that I've seen so far, I'm going to say that Houston is surprising me the most. And obviously, I know you don't want to hear it, but it is still pretty wide open. I mean, K-State has been pretty disappointing since they opened the season in Ireland. Anybody can win this league right now.
Are you feeling less confident about a UCF space game victory over Houston, having seen Houston's performance? Or, like me, you just look at these teams 1 week at a time because they can change week to week. Houston looked good, but as you said, maybe Colorado's not so good, so maybe not as impressive a Houston win. By the way, Houston, no sellout for that one in prime time when hosting Colorado. Tough to pack the house there in Houston.
Yeah, Houston has a tough time filling their stadium. And it's a beautiful stadium, too. It's newer than ours, or at least newly renovated, newer than ours. I think we're going to have to take this week by week. And that's part of the fun of the Big 12 is not knowing what you're going to get. I mean, certainly UCF fans are licking their chops knowing that we get to take on K-State. Obviously, it's at K-State, but again, they haven't looked very good. So is that a win that we can finally maybe notch and get off to Big 12 play off to a good start? We'll have to wait and see. I don't know.
The big one, though, of course, this coming weekend, Utah and Texas Tech, right? You know,
Yes.
The roster that Texas Tech has built. This could be a preview of a conference championship game as well.
Yeah. Yep. What is it? Number 18, Texas Tech, and 11. I don't remember that. Top 25 matchup. It'll be a good game. And speaking of polls, can we talk about the AP polls and what is going on? We've got voters that aren't watching the games, and then they're going on YouTube and talking about how they like to pick their teams. And we got Notre Dame, who's 0-2 in the top 25. Trace, what is going on here? Am I going crazy?
I know this isn't going to change, but it'll give me 10 seconds to rant about no preseason polls. And if you're going to have preseason polls and you lose week one, you're out of the poll. Okay? Notre Dame has lost 2 games. I know. Close. They lost at home. Okay? They lost at home to Texas State. Out of the poll. Okay? I'm not saying punish them because they play a tough schedule. You get out of the poll at 0-2. No business being in there still. And I don't know when these writers, I'm not knocking Matt Michelle, the Orlando Sentinel, who is a voter. I don't know when they're watching the games. He's sitting right next to me in the press box. He's watching UCF in the press. When's he watching all these games, right? And coaches, they're not watching any of the
No.
Scott Frost. Imagine if he was a voter. When's he watching all these games? So
No.
The system, sham. Notre Dame shouldn't be in there.
It is a sham, and frankly, I'm disappointed that anybody could have an 0-2 winless team in the top 25. It blows my mind. I don't care if it's Notre Dame. I don't care if it's Ohio State and they play difficult schedules. If you have no wins, you can't be in the top 25.
All right. You're our guest on this week's Around the Kingdom. A little getting to know you for these next 2 segments. We talk so much about UCF. You and I exchange comments all the time about various sports, from basketball to baseball to football. But what about the rest of the sports? Where do you rank your sports? What's most important to you from a sports perspective? What are you watching week in and week out?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a college football guy. That's always been my bread and butter. It's been my first love. I like the sport of football. So if you want to go outside college football, I certainly have NFL teams that I like to watch. NFL Sunday, NFL Monday night. I'll throw those games on just because they're enjoyable to watch. I am sadly a Miami Dolphins fan. I've always been a Miami Dolphins fan. So heartbreak runs in my blood, unfortunately.
So college football 1, NFL
college
2?
Football 1. Yeah, give me NFL 2. So college football
third?
1, NFL 2. I'd say it's a tie between college basketball and NHL hockey. I'm a big Panthers fan, and they've been doing well the last couple seasons.
There we go.
And So I like to change it up. A little action on the ice is always fun.
You know what I noticed in week 1 of college football? This is the first time I've really felt this. I was more excited about week 1 of college football than I was the NFL. I feel like college football has moved to number 1 for me, narrowly ahead of the NFL. And we're going to talk about favorite teams in just a second because I'm a Cubs fan. I still have Major League Baseball third, but I find I don't have as much time to watch the leagues as I do particular teams. So let's set some favorite teams, Brian.
Unless I'm watching UCF baseball, it's a snooze fest. Can't watch baseball.
I know. So that sets up favorite teams. Rank your favorite teams. UCF out of this.
I'm going to take UCF out of it. Okay. You're asking me mine, or am I asking you yours? You want to go first?
You first.
Okay, me first. Okay. Well, I already mentioned Miami Dolphins. So
are your number one favorite team?
Got to be the Miami Dolphins. They're my go-to. I'm also a Denver Broncos fan. Most people may not know this. I was born in Colorado. So if we're going to stick with that NFL team, I also follow along with the Denver Broncos. Florida Panthers, I mentioned. Give me the Florida Panthers. And I'm also a graduate of FAU, Florida Atlantic. So they're right down the street, and I'll make it to some FAU football games when I can. Go Owls. There, got to get the whole thing up there. That's what they do. Go Owls.
Go
Owl
Owls.
fingers.
What you don't know is typically during baseball season when we record around the kingdom, I have one eye on the Cubs. Cubs, my favorite team. Orlando City, I have season tickets to in the MLS. And you may not know this, Brian. My favorite NFL team is actually the Seattle Seahawks, who defeated the Denver Broncos in a Super Bowl some years back.
I did not know that. How often do you get to go to a Chicago Cubs game?
I was down in real South Florida to see them against the Marlins. And last year I saw them in Chicago. So that's become a thing for me now. I'm trying to see them in a different city every year. All right. Let's skip ahead to the Olympic sports. Volleyball takes it on the chin to number 21 Baylor. How much do you know about where volleyball stands, Brian?
Well, I know that they were 7-2. They were doing pretty well. I guess it's going to be 7-3 now after they got bounced out of their own stadium by Baylor. They were playing well from what I saw, but Baylor is ranked and it's just, I guess, out-talented them.
I think that's a good way of saying it. And when you look at the Big 12 schedule, there are a lot of teams ranked in the top 25. The Knights have their work cut out for them. 3-0 sweep to Baylor. They've got a non-conference schedule where they go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They play Alabama and Memphis, and then it's right back to conference play. Knights were roughed up in the first 2 years in the Big 12. That's going to be challenging for them. Women's soccer, 6-1, following a 2-0 win up at North Florida. They bring conference play home and kickoff against West Virginia. What has impressed you most about the Knights off the start of this season? It's got to be 6-1. Nobody would have thought they'd won 6 out of the first 7.
Yeah, 6-1 is very respectable for that team to get out there. Obviously, you would have liked to have gotten the win against Florida International. FIU. It was a space game. I mean, how many space games are we having this year, Trace?
Too many. Too many.
They like to roll the space game uniforms out there, which are nice. But anyway, you would have liked to have gotten that game, that win over FIU, your Florida rival. But you can't complain at 6-1.
Gotcha. And men's soccer, I will say 2-3-1, probably not where you want to be. They had some tough games, Wake Forest, North Carolina, but they open conference play. Did you know, Brian, they go to Kentucky, the SEC, Kentucky Wildcats are a part of the Sun Belt for men's soccer. They're number 18. You just try to get a result on the road.
You know, you really wish that you were off to a better start, 2-3-1, not the best. So disappointing from that regard, but men's soccer, it's such an interesting conference that we play in because, as you alluded to, we play in the Sun Belt. We've got teams like, obviously, UCF and other Sun Belt teams, Marshall and Kentucky. I mean, it's crazy, the teams that
West
we
Virginia,
wind up playing in.
West Virginia from the Big 12 in the Sun Belt.
Yeah. It's so weird whenever I see a Sun Belt logo on our uniforms.
It does look funny. You got to catch yourself to not say Big 12 as well when you refer to men's soccer. Time to bring back in Adam. Adam, what did Brian and I perhaps get wrong?
Got a page full of stuff here, gentlemen. All right. Bill Belichick, 333 career NFL wins.
Is that all?
College. That's all 2 college wins. Fun fact about this matchup, by the way. You guys talked about the chess match. Defensive coordinator for North Carolina, Steve Belichick, Bill's son, obviously, was the coordinator last year at Washington when they lost to Indiana 31-17. Indiana quarterback that day by Taven Jackson. So a little full circle moment there. You guys talked about Belichick in his Tuesday presser. He referred to UCF as UCF multiple times, no central references. So maybe that was just a flub on his part. UCF has not announced a sellout yet. However, there are still tickets available on Ticketmaster. So do with that what you will. Who will be around when UCF plays Florida in 2030? Scott Strickland, because he's got a contract extension until 2030. And then get this, guys. After 2030, he has a 5-year deal. He'll stay on as a special assistant to the AD and make a cool $1 million. So Scott Strickland with a nothing job. Kawhi Leonard is jealous. Brian, the Houston quarterback, is Connor Wegman. This weekend's matchup is number 16 Utah versus number 17 Texas Tech. The last time an 0-2 team was ranked was 1988 Michigan. They were ranked 19th with 2 losses. Brian Peterson lives nowhere down the road from FAU anymore. He moved a long time ago, and only one Bill Belichick girlfriend reference. I'm proud of both of you guys.
Thank you, Adam. One more thing before we go. Brian, UCF Eats for the North Carolina game includes these features: pulled barbecue chicken sliders. Sounds good on paper.
Sounds tasty.
And Tar Heel State dog. I don't know what that consists of. Report back to us from the.
Funny you should ask. I looked it up, Trace. It's
Yeah.
chili, slaw, and onions on your hot dog.
Yeah, I'm not big on coleslaw. Catch up on Around the Kingdom at the Sons of UCF YouTube channel and on the Sons podcast feed. For Brian W. Peterson and Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trylko. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this week's Around the Kingdom.